In this video, we will build a simple to-do list with NodeJS, React, and RedisJSON. What is RedisJSON? RedisJSON is a high-performance document store for modern applications, which means is similar to MongoDB. So let's create a free account to create the database. Also, when I will create now the account, you have also a chance to win a Tesla Model 3 if you do it as well. So let's hope you are lucky. Now I will create my account. I created the account now. I will go to databases and I will create a new subscription. So I will select the free plan here, AWS, and the region I'm in Europe. So I'll select Europe Frankfurt there. And the subscription name, database, and let's create the subscription. Now let's create a new database. So let me zoom this, and the database name, I will call it RedisDB, and the modules here, RedisJSON is the database that we will store the data, and we will select also Redis Search. What is Redis Search? You can think of Redis Search to be similar to Elasticsearch. So it will give us some functionality to query the database. And let's activate this database. So the database is ready. We still have one small change to make, but first let's create the backend and the frontend. For the frontend, it's already built. So what is left is just to clone this repository, which I will also provide this link in the description of this video. So git clone this repository, run npm so let's go first inside. So go to Redis frontend and run npm install. And after everything is installed, we will start it. So everything is installed. Now run npm start. And this will run our frontend on port 3000. So right now we will have probably an error. So we have this error because we don't have the backend running. So I also have an empty folder here. I open it with my IDE, and in this empty folder run npm init -y, and this will create a package.json file. Here I will add also type module here, because I will use the TypeScript syntax, and top level awaits. So we will see how this will benefit us. I will create here a source directory, and let's install also some packages. So let's install nodemon, express, course, and redis om. So the last package is the package that we will connect with RedisJSON. So we installed these packages, and in the source directory I will create a JavaScript file, index.js, and here we will import express from express. Notice that I'm using the TypeScript syntax, and this is available when we add this type module here. And I will also import course from course. Course is needed for our frontend to communicate with our backend. So I'll create here an app which is equal to express like this. App, we will use express JSON here, and we will use also course like this. Inside I will add an origin which is allowed, which is HTTP localhost port 3000, which is our frontend here. So we need this command here because if we don't add it, the frontend won't be able to communicate with our backend because of this coarse problem. In the end, we will listen to port 8000. If we run this npm, before I run npm start, we need to add in the scripts here start command, which will be nodemon src index.js. And now we can run npm start. And we don't have any endpoints to test. I will add one endpoint which is causing this error, which is /tasks. So I will add here up get request to /tasks, and this will have a request and a response as a parameter. So don't get confused by these helpers here are generated by my IDE. So the values here are just request and a response. In the end, I will add response, send an empty array here, and that should be it. Now in the React app here, let's restart and we will see our to-do list, because this was the endpoint that was causing an error. And this means also that our frontend is communicating successfully with our backend with this course command here. And now let's connect to Redis Cloud here. We have the public endpoint, and we also installed the package Redis OM. So in this index.js, I will import client from Redis OM, and here I'll create the client, which is equal to new client. And after we add the client, we will await client open. Notice that I don't have an error here because we added this type module here, which means it will support top level awaits. This will throw an error because it doesn't find the connection to Redis, and the way that we will add the connection is via a URL here. So let's generate the URL. We have a public endpoint here, which I will copy and I will paste it here. But this is not enough. Still, we will have an error here. We need some other information, which we will get it in the data access control. Here we have users and roles. First, let's go to the roles and let's add a new role. I'll call this role admin for this database that I added, and I will add full access permission and I will save it. I will save it here, and also I will save the role here. So we created an admin role. In the users now, we needed that role because we need to add it here. Is automatically assigned. And now let's create a user. I'll put my name here, and the password, this needs to be an 8-character password, so I'll put an 8-character password here, and I will save it. So we created the user, and now we need to add this user to this connection here. And the way to do it is, first we need the protocol, which is a Redis protocol, column / here. Now we need our user, which this is my user, my password, which is pass123 exclamation point at this URL that we got. So this is the way that we will connect. I will save this, and now we won't have any errors. So the first part is a protocol, which is a Redis username. This is the password without the @ then we need @ then we need the public URL, which is this public endpoint here. And that's it. We successfully connected, and now let's create a document in this database. To do that, I will create another directory here and I'll call it schema. In this directory, I will create a JavaScript file called task schema.js, and here first we need to create a class, I will call it task, that will extend the entity from Redis OM. So let's add also an import here. We need to import entity from Redis OM. We need this class in order for it to create it to the database, and we will export a constant here, task schema, which is equal to a new schema, which we need also to import it from Redis OM, and we'll pass this task, and we need to pass some schema definitions. So I'll add the schema definitions later because we need the third parameter, which it will be the data structure will be a type JSON here. So this will be a JSON document. Now in the schema definitions we will add the name, which is a type string, and we will add another field which is complete. The type here is boolean. So this is our task schema. It will have only a name and a complete field. Now we will use this task schema in the index.js here. We will create a task repository, which is equal to new repository. We need to import it from Redis OM also, and the values here are the task schema. Don't forget also to import it, .js here in the end. So import task schema from the folder task schema.js, and the second value here is a client. So we connected our client with this schema. This will be a document that will be created here. We need also two other commands, which is await task repository, drop index, and I'll duplicate this and I will create an index. So why do we need these commands? So this command is to create the primary key of that document, and we need to run it the first time like this. I will comment this line, but if we run it the second time it will cause an error, so that's why we need to drop the index first and then we need to create it, and that should be it. Now in this endpoint here I will not return this empty array. I will return await here. So let's make this function asynchronous, async. I will await here task repository search return all. So I will return all the values from the database, and if I go to our React app, refresh here, we won't have any problems. So if I go here to localhost port 8000/tasks, we'll get an empty array here. So in order to retrieve some tasks, we have to add another endpoint to create a task. So I will add the post request to /tasks, which this will have this asynchronous function with a request and a response. And now we need to create a task. To create a task, we have to do it like this. First, I will create a variable task is equal to task repository create entity. So task here. So first we have to create the task entity, And after we create that entity, we have to assign the values. So task, we have the name, which the value we will get it from the request. So the name will be request.body.name. So when we send this request here in the React app, we will send only the name. And by default, task complete will be false. It will be an incomplete task. And then we will await task repository save this task. And that should be it. So in the end, when we save this task, the value that is returned is the ID. And we want to return something in the end. Let's return the ID that we created. So response send this ID. But I think this will cause an error to this task list. So task number 1, let's add this task. We probably have inserted this task, but we had an error on the React part. If we refresh this, we'll see an empty space here. So why is that the case? If we go to here to localhost /8000/tasks, let's refresh here, and we will see that we inserted a value in the database. This is the entity ID, and this has entity data here. This is the format that RedisJSON will return our data, but I don't like it like this. I want to return the ID, name, and complete like in the object itself. So the way to format that value is I will go to the task schema and I will add here a ToJSON function, and here I will return the ID, which will be this entity ID, the name, which is this name, and complete, which is this complete. If we add this function with these values, I will save it and I will refresh here. We'll see that this is the format that I wanted. And if we refresh the React app, we'll see that our task was created successfully. But it didn't work in the beginning because we have to return the task itself. So the task like this. And this ID that was created when we save it, I will do it like this. So task.id is equal to this. So let's create the task second here. Let's add it, and we can see that we created another task. So that's it. We created 2 tasks. Now let's add the functionality that when we check here and refresh, for that value to stay checked. So we need to add another endpoint. This will be a put request to tasks / the ID of the task. I'll add this part because it is similar. And here first we need to get the task from this ID that we sent. So to get that value is task is equal to await task repository fetch, and we need to pass ID. The ID is from request params ID like this. So we will get the task by the ID. We have to change now the complete value. So task complete is equal to request.body.complete. So the frontend will send this value if it is complete or not. In the end, we will await task repository save this task. And that should be it. So the complete value will be updated. In the end, let's send the task. And let's try it now. So I will check this task number 1 and I will refresh it. We will see that the task number 1 is checked now, and if we refresh it, it stays like this. Not sure why the order is changed, but this is what it matters, that it updates this complete field in the database. And now this X sign, when we click, we have this, are you sure you want to delete this task? So let's add the endpoint to remove the task. So I will add here up, delete. The endpoint is similar to the updating of the task, so I will add task ID here, that function. And to remove a task, we will call await task repository remove, and we will pass request params ID. And that's it. In the end, we don't have anything to return, so I'll send just null here. And this is a delete endpoint. So I will delete task number 1. I'll type OK, and in the React app is deleted. If I refresh, we will see that is not appearing here. So that's it. This is how we add a CRUD functionality to retrieve all the values, create one value, update and delete using Redis Cloud and RedisJSON. Make sure to create an account and you probably can win a Tesla. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe this video. Thank you.